I mean, they picked a good time to have these exciting games and crazy comebacks. I mean, the game against the Kings, figured out in overtime, get 2 points out of that one, and then they pulled the same stunt against the Avalanche, and they're just making people panic. I mean, I don't think we all thought this game was done because, yeah, they were down 3-1 at one point, but they looked like they could still get back into it because of the way they were playing. And then, of course, I mean, Henry gets the goal, and then I think it was just over a minute later that they scored the game-tying goal, and then they finally figured out overtime, and Kasha, again, with a highlight reel goal in OT to give the Ducks a win, and a huge 2 points. I mean, it hasn't secured them a playoff spot by any means, but these were the games you had to win against these teams you're fighting for a spot with, and this game was almost more important than the game against the Kings, and to get 2 points was just massive. Yeah. I think it gives them a slight edge anytime you have an important player out of the lineup. I mean, the Ducks have seen that all season with the various injuries that they've had, and Varlamov was just starting to turn things around. Eric Johnson's a key piece of their blue line as well. I mean, other than Tyson Berry back there, they don't have a lot of guys who can get things done on a consistent basis, so that's a big loss for them. But they still look good. And, I mean, anytime McKinnon's in the lineup, and especially Landeskog and Rantanen too, that's a scary trio to go up against, and the Ducks did a good job for the most part of shutting them down. Yeah, let's not forget it this time.
Trying to get by Benning. Darnell Nurse left it in the corner, gets left center. Perry scores! Corey Perry!
Ilya able to shake away from Solani. It's given away to Solani around in front. Score! Teemu Solani with the steal.
And the fans want one. Score! Off the floor! On the board! Paul Kariya!
We made it this time. We got to the intro. I see you've bolded and changed the font on with the intro to make sure we got to it this time. Yeah, apparently though we got to get to something before we get through this. The chat is saying they cannot hear you right now. They can only hear me. So we're we're gonna have to get to that before we actually deal with this here.
I'm asking if can everyone hear me now? Can we do the show now? Are we good? We have a major audio issue still.
All right, I think we got it fixed up here.
Everyone's saying it's good now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. Well, this is not going to be a good listen for the rest of you tuning in the next day. So sorry for the technical difficulties. We are live if you're listening to this tomorrow. So we did run into a little bit of difficulties. But let's kick this off. So we'll get back to the goal they were talking about here. If you guys obviously didn't hear either me or Patrick for a bit there, we were kicking it off with the first goal of the game here for the Avs, and just unfortunate. I mean, Getzlaf gets thrown out of the face-off, like you said, a lot of controversy there with the refs. A lot of things going on. The broadcast really hit on that hard, which, I mean, we kind of expect at this point, right? So, Kerfoot gets credited with the goal. I don't even know if he actually touches the puck or not. Ironically, it goes in off Perry's foot and into the net, and it's 1-0 Avs.
No, that was tough. And, if anyone didn't hear me, they were talking about the linesman throwing 3 centers out for the Ducks out of 4 draws in the first period. Not the way the Ducks wanted to start. They get off and are behind in this first period. But then the Ducks would get a power play. Getzlaf with 2 good chances on Bernier, but he's able to stop him at the top of the crease. Much better power play, it seemed like, in this game, and a lot more movement. And they just seemed to be generating some offense, but just couldn't finish.
Yeah. They looked good throughout the majority of the game. They just weren't able. There was no finish, and they didn't really make Bernier work a ton. I mean, I think he finished with over 40 saves, or at least 40 shots against, and he didn't really have to work too hard. There was really any times where he had to make any difficult saves. The Ducks just weren't getting a ton of chances, and you could kind of see that on this power play too.
Great news for Anaheim, though. Silverberg would make no mistake. Gets an area pass in behind the defense to Cogs. I feel like if it wasn't Cogliano or Kasha, this was not going to go in. Cogliano with all the speed, able to get in all alone there on Bernier. Fakes a 5-hole shot on the break. Pulls wide, outweights Bernier to the last possible second. Cogs from almost the goal line buries it. We're 1-1. Crowd going crazy. This crowd was into it from the beginning because they were pissed off at the linesman. And now they have something to cheer about. Cogs finishing there.
Yeah, and this is kind of reminiscent to the last goal he scored. I think it was against Calgary where he outweighted Mike Smith and was able to throw it over him. A little bit similar, obviously, on the breakaway this time, and he outweighs Bernier and throws it in. And we had a question, I think, a couple shows ago talking about how, is Cogliano finally starting to turn the tide offensively and things are going right for him, and we were kind of on the fence. And again, he scores in this game. I mean, he's starting to contribute offensively. This line is turning things around and starting to look like more of a threat. I think Cogliano, Kessler, and Silverberg, one of their better games was last game against the Kings, and they kind of continued that into this one.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't want to jump too far ahead to our postgame talking about possession rates, but they were in the 60s 5-on-5, 60%. So great overall game there for Kessler, Cogs, and Silverberg. Just not much more you can say with that line. Maybe they're finally starting to get going. They all looked pretty good. Cogliano there with the goal. The play just gets more controlled here, and it just felt like it wasn't so much back and forth. And then Lindholm takes a penalty, and I kind of think the story of the night for him, I think he kind of had a rough night overall with that kind of play. He took a couple of penalties that maybe weren't necessary. Ducks don't have to pay for him, though, in the first period. Fourth line getting some good shifts. And then you got an interesting thing here that happens. Zadorov on the Avs with a high hit to the head of Cogliano, left his feet, pushed Cogliano into another Avs player. I don't recall his name. No call on the play. How do you feel about that, considering what Cogs was, dinged for earlier this year against the Kings? I know it's a different play, different scenario, but do you feel like this was a missed call?
I think so, and Zadorov kind of has a history of that, at least in the NHL, and I feel bad because I watched a lot of him when he was in junior because he played in London, and I got to see a lot of his games with the Knights. He was always a physical guy, but he wasn't a guy that went over the edge, and ever since he's really been in the NHL, he's been a very physical defenseman. He's been a guy that kind of lives on the edge and often crosses that line. I feel like it was really close to getting to that point in this one because he does leave his feet. Luckily, he doesn't hit Cogliano in the head, because that could have been a pretty nasty hit. As for like a missed call, I think it's tough to call a guy leaving his feet when there obviously is no head contact. You don't want it to come to that, but I really don't know what they would have called. I mean, the puck was where Cogliano was. You can't really call it interference. Maybe you call it roughing, but it would have been close.
I'd have to go back and rewatch it, because I thought he caught his head. Maybe he caught high shoulder.
He's a big man, too. So
and Cogs pop back up, so that doesn't help the cause if you're looking for a headshot hit. I mean, not that Cogs is one to dive, but I mean, I feel like a guy of that size going after the Ducks, one of the smallest players next to Kasha, really. If he was hit in the head, you would have known about it. Yeah. But the Ducks would still not be able to catch a break. Stick between the legs of Ryan Kesler. The refs call it a dive, and they call it a trip. I hate this call, not just in this case, but in any case in the NHL. If it's a trip, it's a frickin' trip. If it's a dive, it's a frickin' dive. Just you call one or the other. The fact they call both, I just never makes any sense to me. After that play, though, Richie goes up and has some words with Zadorov about the hit on Cogs, I'm sure. Plus, Eric Stevens mentioned that Zadorov was the guy who concussed Nick Cardillis in a rookie game before the beginning of our 2016-2017 season. Maybe there's some there because, I'm sure Cardillis and Richie played together. But total blown call on the refs on that part, right? Total trip by Zadorov.
Yeah, it was like that throughout the entire first period. I mean, it wasn't just, I guess, against the Ducks. It was kind of heavily going in that direction. But, it started with the three, I think it was Getzlaf twice, and then it might have been Kessler the other time, just getting thrown out of the face-off dot. And then it kind of turned into this where, I mean, it does look like a dive because of how he falls, but it's not, because I mean, you try skating with a stick between your legs, you're going to fall. There's no way he could have gotten any momentum from that. I don't see it. I mean, it looks dramatic because of the way he fell, and maybe that's why they ended up calling embellishment, but I hate it too. I mean, it's either a trip or it's either embellishment. You can't have both. I mean, you can make a call look a little bit dramatic, but if he trips you, it shouldn't matter.
Stick between the legs. I mean, not much you could do there. Yeah. But, they're human. They make mistakes. And then just a play that I felt was unnecessary. As much as I love Ron Kessler, I'm sure he didn't mean for it to happen. This would have huge implications on the Ducks in this game and possibly moving forward. There's a play coming in on Gibson. Puck gets deflected up into the netting. Play is going to be stopped. Kessler takes a shot at Landeskog as he's skating towards the direction of John Gibson's crease, just running over Gibson in the process. I put dumb play by Kessler on this, really, because I felt like it was totally unnecessary. I get what he's doing. I understand that Landeskog didn't, try to avoid Gibson either, but you can't shove a guy into your goaltender when the play is dead like that. Gibby appeared no worse for wear, but it would not be the case as he would not start in the second period. How do you feel about that play overall?
Yeah, there's an obvious push by Kessler, but Landeskog kind of makes the most of it and just he takes advantage of that push and goes right into John Gibson. I think it's on both guys, but Landeskog was at peak douchebaggery tonight. I mean, he was just involved in everything, and he was. I mean, that's the type of player he is. And we have a lot of guys like that in the Ducks, so you can't be too biased. And Perry's that type of player essentially as well. So he's doing what he gets paid for. But it's tough because there is that push, but Landeskog makes no effort to get out of the way, and then he also gets his stick right up close to the head and the neck of John Gibson and really gives him a good shot. So, I mean, hopefully it's not long-term, because that's I don't know how – we have a question about that later anyway, but I don't know how the Ducks are going to make any considerable run without John Gibson between the pipes. I mean, if it becomes down to this play, Kessler's going to look back on that and wish he didn't do that, and the Ducks are going to look back on that and saying, Landeskog should be getting not a suspension, but at least some kind of punishment for that.
But it would go unpunished as we would move on here. Two big plays I felt like in the rest of this period. A diving poke check. I think a hell of a play by Fowler